Hello beautiful people, my name is Carrie and I use tarot and oracle cards to bring you messages for your mundane and spiritual growth. Today I have a message for you about connectedness, about the ecstatic experience of oneness. Fittingly, guiding our reading today from the Fairies Oracle deck, we have ecstasis. Visually, when I look at ecstasis, I get this image of a dragonfly. If you think about the dragonfly's life cycle, they start out as this little larva swimming in the water. They don't really know the higher realities of outside their little puddle, outside of their little pond. But eventually, through just natural processes, through their growth, they end up ascending up whatever stalk of grass or whatever's growing in the water, dry out in the sunlight, and they become a dragonfly. So visually, this gives me this impression of we as individuals, we as people, we find ourselves, kind of stuck in, the illusions of life, kind of stuck in this idea of separation, that, we're not really connected to the bigger picture, and then eventually growing through, whatever our experience is up into this understanding that not only are we connected with higher reality, we are actually one with this higher reality. We've got a lot of major arcana energy coming through in this reading today. Starting out, I have Temperance. Okay, so Temperance speaks of the alchemical process in the in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot decks. We have the angel pouring water between two cups. In this particular deck, in my Robin Wood tarot, the angel has these balls he's juggling, or she's juggling, or they are juggling, which I imagine to be gold, silver, and mercury, right? Three important elements, three important metals in alchemy. Okay. And we also have what I want to draw importance to here, the triangle within the square, right? There's this understanding that divinity exists within us, within this human form. We might feel mundane, but this is a reminder that divinity actually sits within you. Okay. Next up, I have the Hierophant. So the Hierophant is a card of tradition. He's a card of attainment through practice. His staff here being a symbol of his ascension. He has, practiced certain, meditations, rituals, these types of things that have brought him to a higher realization, right? Of course, the Hierophant is a human like the rest of us, so sometimes he makes mistakes, but generally speaking, he has achieved a certain level of attainment because of the discipline that he's applied to his spiritual practice. And, climbing through step by step, eventually he comes to the star. There's this epiphany, this aha moment. I'm getting the impression that you have had an aha moment. You have had an epiphany maybe through meditation, maybe through ritual, maybe through, whatever other means. You've had some sort of experience that made you go, oh, I am that. Maybe you've seen the light within yourself. Maybe you've seen the energy of life, and you've come to realize that, I am that life force. I am that energy, right? In the same way that a branch is not separate from the tree. We might have this illusion that, each of us is a separate individual. And to a certain extent, within this physical reality, functionally, that's true. One branch is not another branch, but all the branches come down to the trunk, and they are each the tree. So, the revelation you had the devil. Okay? When you're looking at the devil, you get this sense of separation. You have these two individuals here working to each pull this treasure chest in the opposite direction. They think that, higher understanding, higher realities for themselves and for themselves alone. Regardless, even, if they continue to see themselves as separate, even if they worked together, they would never get this treasure chest anywhere, right? Because it's tied up with all these chains. But you have had some experience with the world. Okay? With this energy here, you've kind of been able to allow yourself some sense of the interconnectedness of all the elements, earth, fire, air, water. You've completed some sort of practice. You've gone through some sort of initiation. You've gone through some sort of training. It could be formal schooling. You could be being trained by somebody who has, gone on the path ahead of you. But regardless, you've come to a certain culmination in that practice, in that training that has brought you to this epiphany, to this realization that you've had. Okay. Now, an interesting thing about our experience of separateness is it actually does serve a purpose. We have this man in the Four of Pentacles here. He's built his castle, his strong foundation, his structure that he, his way of understanding himself, who he is, how the world works, what his place in it is. This strong sense of identity, however, has separated him from this town, right? From this beautiful, colorful, happy, bright town. And he's in his gray, rigid fortress, his sense of self. The purpose of this is to cause an individual to go within, right? This hermit energy. You might be thinking this guy might be like Scrooge, right? But eventually, as you're getting to understand yourself, as you're going within, and you get this clear, strong sense of self, eventually you find this inner light. This is where the epiphany comes in, right? And you become the Queen of Swords. You're discerning, you're clear, so you know how to operate in the world, you know how to keep yourself safe, you know how to achieve your goals, but the light breaks through. You realize that nature, the cosmos, the sky, it's all part of you. Lights, energy within you. That epiphany that you had as the hermit, your lantern, that's your page's wand. The first time you experience this higher kind of state of consciousness, the first time you experience this huge epiphany moment, it lights an energy in you and you become the Page of Wands. You get this freshness, this newness, you're just excited, right? And you come out of this experience of the Four of Pentacles into the Sun. This individual here in the Four of Pentacles, if you look at, he's got these robes, these rich robes, the crown, his sense of self, his sense of personal royalty is more on a materialistic side. But then when we have the Sun card here, this baby, completely naked, so they don't really, you come to a point where you don't really have this over-identification with titles, this over-identification with, I am this person, or I have to be this way. You get this freedom, this joy, this life, right? Just pure life. And this is a newly earned, a renewed sense of joy. But living in this physical reality as we do, unless you are, some ascended master, some guru, you find yourself slipping out of the sun into the Fool. You still have that joy, you still have that freedom, but you have this baggage that you've probably kept with you, that you've probably carried with you from before the Epiphany, right? And you gotta repeat the process, you gotta repeat the cycle. It's, life doesn't really go in cycles, it goes in spirals, right? You might get a little bit higher than the next time. You might be able to keep a certain amount of this joy even with you in day-to-day life, but you still carry this baggage. You have this sense of an identity or something that you brought with you from before the experience, and that's okay. That just means you have stepped out of one journey, completed into the next, right? And you get back to the Five of Wands. You get back to the learning experiences, the challenges life, throws at you, new situations to learn from, new things to overcome, things to help you grow and continue to develop in your character. And you want to probably ask yourself, now that I've had this higher experience, what do I do? I've come back down to just regular day-to-day life again, but I have this remembering. So when you get a taste of that higher experience, you become the Eight of Pentacles. You go, now I have this new experience. Time to practice. Time to create it again. You continue whatever was the practice that you had before, right? Before enlightenment, you chop wood and you carry water. After enlightenment, you chop wood and you carry water. You practice again, because since you're in this cycle, it will come back around. Eventually you'll have that epiphany moment again. But now that you know it's a cycle, celebrate that cycle. Enjoy it. The Three of Cups, this joyous card, this card of celebration. Each of the ladies here on her cup has a different cycle, a different phase of the cycle of the moon. Be more aware of where you're at in your cycles. If you pay attention to where you are in ebb and flow, it can help you navigate this more effectively. Okay, so this is where I'm going to leave the reading off. If anything in this reading was of value to you, I highly encourage you, go ahead and drop a comment, like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.